And I'm proving that there still is loyalty in football.
Hello viewers, are you ready to become listeners? For one time only, I'm going to put For The Fans Show, the weekly football podcast I do with my friends Jack and Callum, on this channel. It's called For The Fans. Today we talk about our potential England squads for the Euros, after obviously their recent, I was going to say successes, now I remembered the Holland result. But have a listen, maybe you'll enjoy it. Check us out on social media or on Twitter. We've got our own YouTube channel as well, where we post the show each week, as well as being on iTunes. So yeah, if this is a sort of thing you're interested in, keep listening. Maybe stick it on in the background of Football Manager, who knows. Now, enough from me. Back to me in the studio. We don't have a studio, we just do our bedrooms.
I see a lady who plays the saxophone. Give her a big applause.
Right then, listeners, hello, it's us again, it's For The Fans, and we're doing an international special, by which I mean we're going to talk about England, because we're going to stick to what we know. Jack and Callum join me. Jack, how are you?
I'm good. I've been away for the weekend. I've come back, watched England, well, one of the games. And yeah, I'm ready to form some opinions.
It's a strong start.
We're going to about.
He's not been very well.
No, he's not been very well. That's his excuse for not watching the second game, anyway. But you know, I've opened with let's do an England podcast. Jack's immediately said didn't see one of them.
I saw the highlights.
That's good. All right, that'll do. And Callum Keen's here. How you doing, Keeno?
Good evening.
Good evening. Good, right then. As ever with For The Fans, we're going to start off with Ben's feature of the week. If I had to do a jingle this week, it'd be no. No,
it's coming home.
No, not yet. No, that's what
yet.
We'll do when we win it. That's what we'll do when we win it. Right then, so we're going to kick things off with this week's feature, and it's a pretty simple feature, gentlemen. Four different sort of points each. There's 4 points on offer for both of you, and there is no chance to steal. Okay. This week, no chance to steal. Who of the two of you would like to go first?
I feel like I always go first, so I feel like...
I haven't actually given you the category. The category is... Okay, well, do you know what will surprise you with the category?
Keno, you can go first this week. Take the reins.
Right.
It's a slightly different show. Maybe not as long as our normal talk. So, yeah, I'll let Keno go first.
All right. Here we go, then. Right. Callum, who has more England caps? Is it Rio Ferdinand or Sol Campbell? That is this week's feature.
I can see why we're not allowed to steal in this one.
Yes, it would be too easy. Rio Ferdinand or Sol Campbell?
Say, I feel like Sol Campbell was maybe less plagued by injuries in his prime than Ferdinand.
Well, I need an answer.
He's just stalling so you can open Google.
Come on.
Rio Ferdinand.
Correct. 81 caps for Rio, 73 for Campbell. So that's a point. I'll write the word point down, that makes sense. Next one. We'll go to Jack, why not? Jack.
Hello.
Who had more England caps, Paul Scholes or Paul Gascoigne? Gaza or Scholesy?
I feel like this is just a guessing game.
Well, unless you know the answer.
I'll go with Paul Scholes, even though no, that can't be right. I'll go with Gascoigne, just because I feel like Scholes was in a more competitive era of England midfielders.
Fair enough. Gaza had 57 caps.
Yeah.
Paul Scholes had 66 caps.
Oh dear, should have gone with my gut.
No point. Yeah, you would have got it right. Back to Keno. Keno, who had more caps out of Gary Lineker and Michael Owen?
Ooh.
Oh, indeed.
I feel this could be a bit of a trick. No, Lineker.
Gary Lineker had 80 caps.
Ooh.
How do you feel about it now?
I'd feel very confident.
Fairly confident, considering that Owen's career was so short, really.
Michael Owen had 89 caps.
Wow.
What a fall. What a fall.
Amazing.
It is amazing. It's almost as amazing as... we'll reveal it at the end. I can't give away the tiebreaker. Jack, we're going to come up to you now.
Okay, I'm ready.
Gordon Banks and Joe Hart. Who had more
Joe
caps?
Hart.
Joe Hart had 57 England caps.
Very confident now. Probably misplaced.
Gordon Banks, 73.
Okay.
Made that excellent save against Pele.
I mean, my logical thinking there was they had less internationals back then, but that's not worked, and it might not even be true. But
no, it's definitely true. At the halfway stage, then we have Keno on 1 point, and we have Jack on.
I mean, there's been 4 50-50 questions. We've got one right so far. It's not.
I mean,
not great.
I'd have got all 4 at this point, I imagine. Callum, can you stop typing, please? It's very distracting.
That's him on
you
Google.
might be able to hear that.
That's him on Google.
Hush your bloody gums. I know we're trying to do a quiz here.
The listeners won't hear that.
That's
The legitimacy
fine.
of the quiz has been called into question at this point.
You are
but we'll come to
basically,
you
at this
anyway.
point, you're the guy who in the pub quiz goes to the toilet to go on his smartphone and look for the answers.
He's a bit like the guy on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire that was coughing. Isn't he?
Yeah,
Awful.
yeah.
Anyway, we'll come back to the cheat. Phil Neville and Jamie Carragher.
Are these all just like this? Is this the...
Yes, they're all like this.
Okay.
You sound underwhelmed by the feature, Keno, this week.
Oh, we've had 4 top-notch features back to back. This is an international special. You get an international budget.
I mean, in terms of player caliber, I would say there's no comparison but I feel that Jamie Carragher had quite an underwhelming international career.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Phil Neville because I think you're trying to trick me.
All right, Jamie Carragher, 38 international
Not
caps.
many. Probably less than he should. Well, far less than he should.
Phil Neville, 59. England
Wow,
caps.
again.
No one grows up to want to play fullback, though.
I mean, the perks of this week's feature is the shock factor that we're invoking with each answer. Jack, back to you. You have to get this one right, mate.
I mean, it's not looking great, is it?
Joe Cole and Paul Merson.
Joe Cole. I've come to the conclusion at this point. Every previous one, I've kind of tried to think it out. This time, blurting out the first name. Joe Cole, was it the goal against Sweden? That's one of my one of my happiest England memories.
Joe Cole, 56 caps. Joe Cole.
Okay, well, that's gone wrong.
Still confident?
No, not at all.
Paul Merson, 21
Oh,
England caps.
There you go.
Point for about the space. Right, Keane, this is to seal the deal here, mate.
He doesn't
The
sound
two
confident.
players are Jack Wilshere and Michael Carrick.
Ooh.
Jack Wilshere.
I read this just while I was. Well,
when he
picking
was
my squad
googling
from
it
main
in the
body of
previous
show.
one, yeah.
No,
Anyway,
no.
come on then.
Carrick has like 20 something, or maybe that starts. I'm
Okay.
just
Can we have an answer,
Jack
please?
Wilshere.
Jack Wilshere.
Yeah.
Jack Wilshere has 28 England caps.
Oh, in which case Carrick could have come on us.
Michael Carrick has 34 England
Yeah, I
caps.
knew it was
No
close.
point.
People can't help
And
you
this
now.
is down to work the space here to level it, to take it to the tie-break question.
I don't like this kind
Ready,
of
Jack?
pressure. I mean, how do we decide the tie-break? What if we both want to go for the same
No,
one?
let me deal with the rules. Right.
Gotta plan ahead.
Jack, the two players are Tim Sherwood
Okay.
and Dele Alli. Who had more England caps, or who has currently more England caps?
Two very
Who
similar
had more England
individuals.
caps implies that Dele
Who
Alli
has?
surpassed him this game. So I'm going to say Dele Alli.
Does it?
I mean, probably
Okay, I'm
not.
not sure it does imply
I'm
that.
reading into that a lot. My logic here is the fact that I don't think I think Tim Sherwood played like 3 games for England. I think Dele Alli's played like 4.
Okay. Tim Sherwood has played 3
Oh,
games.
no.
Or played 3
Is
games.
that?
for
Have I
England.
just got the numbers spot on then?
Dele
That's
Alli
2.
has 6.
Oh, panic over.
Oh,
Panic
6.
over.
So point. And it goes to the tie-break. And then...
Can I just say, I don't know why I know how many England Cups Tim Sherwood had.
Yeah, that was weird. That was weird.
That's not even something that you Google. Google wouldn't have the answer for that one.
The tie-break question, gentlemen, goes as follows. I want a number from you each, and the closest person will win. Okay? How many England caps does Ross Barkley have?
Oh, God.
Jack, we'll start with you.
But Keano went first earlier, so I feel it's only right that he
It's
goes.
all right.
He's going to do
It's
the
all right,
Price is
Jack.
Right tactic, where he goes one either side of me.
Well, then, he's going to have to...
I went first.
Yeah,
You
that's
can go
the pressure.
first
That's the
now.
pressure of the quiz.
Okay,
Now, come on.
13.
13.
Oh,
Keenan.
I was going to say... I was
this
going to
is
say
really
15,
interesting.
so I'll say 15. I bet you he's got 14.
I haven't got a second tie break. Ross Barkley has 21
Oh.
England caps, and
There we
this
go.
week's winner with that is Callum Keane. Can I get a round of applause on the floor, please? Round of applause. Well done, this week's feature. I mean, Jack's been not very enthusiastic there, I'll be honest. Now then, folks listening, we'll touch upon the England games that have just gone on while we discuss this, but we're actually going to talk about our 23-man squads for the Euros. Roy's had his final look before he makes his selection. So we're going to go through goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders and forwards. And I guess we'll do this like a round table scenario. So I guess what we could do, shall we all name the players, especially with goalkeepers? Shall we name our goalkeepers and see if any crossover and discuss that?
Okay, yeah, let's go for that.
Right. Shall I kick us off?
Yeah. So are you going to say one? Then we all nod and go, yeah, we put that guy in.
Okay, we'll start. Okay, maybe we'll go with most obvious, shall we?
Yeah.
And then we'll go through that way. So we've all got Joe Hart written down, I assume.
Yes.
Assume he's fit.
Are we expecting Hart to be number one now because of the Butland injury?
I think he was going to be number one anyway. Actually,
I think he was. I think the Butland injury was quite unfortunate. I think that will keep him from the squad.
Yeah. No, I trust. I think Joe Hart's England's best goalkeeper.
I will say on the Butland
Like, it's
thing,
as simple as that.
Like I know he thinks he can last till half time, but he is the reason England have conceded that goal against Germany. The defenders should have closed him down better.
Yeah.
And granted,
And
you can't expect a player with a broken ankle to make a save in the situation he was in, but he did have the chance to go down and go off.
And he also had the chance to put the ball out.
Well,
He
he should have kicked it out, shouldn't he?
He
That
could
was
have
that
sent
was
the
big
ball
thing.
out.
I feel like if you break your ankle, you know you've broken your ankle. I know.
At the end of the day, boys, we beat them.
We did. That's
So-
all that matters.
We did.
Doesn't matter, really, does it? We beat them. Okay, next time we've got written down is Fraser Forster.
Yeah.
I think we're probably all.
This is where Keno goes,
Yes.
no, I've got Tommy Eaton down as my number 2.
No, I've got him down as well, but that's my third.
Oh,
choice.
and Tom Heaton, Jack. Have you put Tom Heaton
No.
down? Neither have I.
Who have you put down, Ben?
Probably not the same player that you have.
Okay. If you've
I'll
put
be
Ruddy
honest.
down, then no, we haven't.
Mark Bunn.
No, not my.
I've gone with Ben Foster.
I have gone with Jordan Pickford.
Okay, I'll allow you to elaborate first because I feel like yours is the bigger curve ball.
Thank you. The reason I think so I've got Hart, Forster, and Pickford. The reason I'd take Pickford is a similar reason to why Butland went recently. Like we could have taken because Butland went to the World Cup, did he not? Sort of as our third choice. It may well have been due to an injury at some point, but I'm pretty sure he went instead of Foster. What I don't see the point when you have to take 3 international keepers, which is arguably there's a big argument to say you could take 2 anyway, but you have to take 3 as part of the rules. I don't see the point in taking someone like Ben Foster, someone like Tom Heaton, when you've got Jordan Pickford, who is one of the most capped younger keepers. I think he's got 6 caps for the under-21s. The other 2 keepers that were recently selected in that under-21 squad didn't play. So, like the under-21s don't have games this summer. Take him as well. If he's I think he's 20, 22, between like around that area. Just take him with them. You've got Hart, you've got Forster. If worse comes to work, you've still got a goalkeeper. Yes, he might be 22. It might be the making of him. But
Yeah.
I think we can afford to risk that third place by taking a player that will hopefully, if the system works properly, be in the England squad for the next 10 years to come as that second, third, maybe even first choice. You don't know what he might do.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a very good point.
So I would much rather us take a young goalkeeper than someone that we know all about. We know what they're going to offer. Like I will have as much confidence in Ben Foster as I would Jordan Pickford. Not because I think Pickford's a better goalkeeper. I just think the situation's the same. Neither have lots of international experience, but one of them has got to look about. We've got to think about the future of England's team here.
See,
so take
my
him.
thinking here is English goalkeepers. There's a curse. If they ever make an
Okay.
appearance in a game, their careers are ruined if like they make one mistake. I look at Rob Green against the USA. I don't want Forster and Hart getting injured. Pickford comes in, makes a mistake age 22, and that's his England career over. Because that is what happens
good
with
point.
England goalkeepers. You make one mistake, you're done.
I agree that is a good point. I don't think
I don't
that
think
Joe
it's gonna
Hart
happen.
and Fraser
I just-
Forster will be getting
It's
injured.
true.
I'm playing devil's
It is
advocate.
true.
I mean, if that happens now, and Ben Foster comes
both
on,
be-
or Tom
to be
Heaton comes
fair-
on, then. I mean, it's who do you want to sacrifice?
This year, Hart's obviously had a few injury problems. Forster had a long time out at the start of the season. Now Butland's out. Forster's not been called up. Foster's not been called up either. So maybe we've got a problem. Maybe he will be. Like Jordan Pickford could be England's number 1.
I have this weird theory, okay, that there is some kind of curse that's been laid on English goalkeepers. They're all going to be injured, and it's going to get to the day before the squad has to be announced. It's going to be like, right, who's fit? Right, so we've got Rob Green and Paul Robinson. Right, well, they'll have to go back on
Yeah.
that could happen. It's not.
Well, would that be a terrible thing?
Yes, it would.
So out of, I mean, now you've heard my reasoning. Are you sticking with your picks, or do you think
I can
that
understand the
I've got a
logic
good
behind it.
point there?
I just don't think that's the kind of. I know it's meant to be our starting 11, like our 23. I just don't ever see that being a remote possibility under Roy or any other manager. Even though I do entirely agree with your reasoning.
Okay, Kino.
I think you've swayed me on that one, Ben.
Thank you. Sorry, Tom Heaton.
Because, like you say, I mean, the third keeper slot doesn't really matter too much, and it, like you say, there's nothing to lose from putting
The curse.
the England under-21 keeper in there. So
I think we'd all agree that Butland would most certainly be there had he not picked up what is
I mean, there's definitely
quite
an
a bad
argument to
injury.
say he could play ahead of Hart as well, considering Hart's
Yeah.
been left out of City a few times this year in big games.
Yeah, I guess it's a good point to point out. Like, we know that Luke Shaw is injured, for example. That we're not going to pick players that we know are unavailable.
Charlie Austin's
essentially
injured as well.
Danny Ings also won't be going. It's unlikely. So yeah, let's move on then. Defenders. Right, where do we? I mean, I said right. Should we start at right back?
Let's start with the centre halves.
Oh, okay,
actually.
centre backs.
Because I think we could all agree that if you're looking at the entire squad, that's probably the most sort of contentious, less developed position in the squad. I mean,
Yeah, I'd go with that.
that's where we're weakest. I mean, I've got John Stones,
Nod in my head.
Agrees.
Chris Smalling,
Agree.
Phil Jagielka,
No.
and Gary Cahill. I've got 4.
Agree.
Who's your fourth man in the centre half?
Well, I only take in my defender section, Callum. I only take 3 centre backs.
That's brave.
Really?
Yeah, but there's method behind
Actually,
the madness.
Do you know? I think I know what you're going to say here, because Eric Dyer could play at centre half, couldn't he?
You are correct. Eric
And
Dyer
that-
can play centre half.
And now I think about it, I think that's probably where.
Okay, Jack, what's your solution? to this
So
problem?
England, we have this weird thing where we just take young players
we go.
prematurely. So I'm
Oh,
going to stake a claim now for Joe Gomez 2016 to come as a fourth choice centre back. Much for a similar reason, actually, to you with the goalkeepers.
He's injured.
Is he not? He's going to be
Gomez
fit, is he not?
2016.
He's injured.
Is he not fit? Even if he just came back to fitness, he's the kind of player who I'd say just stick him in, or any younger centre back from the England
But
side.
Jack, look how
You're a
that worked with
Liverpool
Theo Walcott.
It didn't work with Theo
It
Walcott.
ruined his
play.
career.
Did it
ruined his
work
career.
with Michael Owen?
Also,
yes, it did.
Yeah, but Michael Owen was scoring goals in the Premier League.
That's true. I
That's a
mean,
bit different.
I just think not necessarily Joe Gomez, but that was the name that came to mind. But I just think there's an opportunity with this tournament, with the lack of pressure, to try and bed in a few of the younger players from the under 21s. And this is very much an opportunity, with there not being an under 21s tournament this year.
I kind of think that Stones and Dyer are that, though, in some respects.
I think you could be right in the sense that there is one spot maybe to fill as Hodgson sees it, because the fact that Dyer can play centre half, although I think he should really be in the middle. Really, we need 2 Eric Dyers. We need one to play at centre half and one to play in the middle, because I actually think, and his performance is in the middle for Tottenham this year, and also on Saturday night against Germany, he's suddenly become one of the most crucial midfielders in the England squad for me, because we don't have another player who can do what he does in terms of breaking up play efficiently, being able to put in really effective man-marking jobs on players, which a team like England will need to do. I mean, we will have to give teams a lot of respect. So really, we need.
Shut my window. Bear with.
I think I'm trying to think of alternatives, and actually there aren't that many great centre backs.
Should we talk about the? So we agree we take those 3 for certain.
Yeah, I just feel like the centre back position is perhaps one where you could afford to take a fourth kind of player, well, a fifth player if you include Dyer as one of your 4 centre backs.
Yeah.
Who is like.
Well, I guess the reason I said it is because actually, if one of those 3 centre backs, those core 3 centre backs, don't go, you bring in a 4th one. I don't know who that. I don't know. Like, obviously on the reserve list there'll be a defender. Does he put someone like Shawcross on the list?
Jones?
Phil Jones, yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? Who did that? Like, I was saying to someone recently, actually. We've gone from having a wealth of centre-back talent 5 years ago to suddenly this being one of our biggest issues. It's curious.
The biggest issue. Let's talk about the fullbacks, because
right.
I mean, if we agree that the centre half's probably the weakest position,
this is where things get interesting.
I think we're actually really quite strong at fullbacks, and I might not have said this maybe even a year ago or at the start of the season, but I think Danny Rose, Kyle Walker, Klein have all played themselves into this team.
Okay, do we all have
season.
those 3?
Yes.
Just to clarify. Now, do you boys have any extras on that?
I do, but I don't. I've got Bertrand down just because I think we need a left back. I think we're quite fortunate actually in the fact that Stones can play right back if we need him to. So there is a bit of flexibility there, and then you could move Klein out onto the left. But I was.
You play Walker there, of course, as well.
I was fairly stumped when it came to an alternative at left back, because I feel like you do need 2 fullbacks for either side in this kind of squad.
Shall I try and help you out, Jack, with the reasoning of my selection?
I mean, is Callum Chambers fit? That was a name that crossed my mind, but I didn't write it down because I didn't think he was fit.
I'll talk you through it. At right back, I've got Walker and Klein, and then if you were looking for a third right back, you go to John Stones. If you're looking for a fifth right back, you're looking at James
What about
Milner,
the fourth
who has
right
played
back?
there relatively recently.
What
Pardon?
about the fourth right back?
Oh, sorry, maybe the fourth right back. Sorry, the fourth right back. If you're looking at the left back,
a lot of right backs.
if we're looking at the left back's position, not as strong, but this is
Yeah.
my thinking. We've got Danny Rose first choice, then Klein can go over, and then you'll have Walker or Stones coming in at that right back, or your fifth choice, James Milner, and then you arguably go to, and this might sound surprising, again Milner's there, but Fabian Delph wouldn't be a dreadful left back, I don't think.
No.
When you think about the role that Danny Rose plays, Delph's a natural left footer. Defensively, I have kind of revealed one of my picks for the midfield there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's how
I've
you work around the problem.
I've kept. Yeah. I mean, we'll get onto the midfield in a minute, or we can do it now if you want. I think.
Well, let's segue in then, shall we? But Jack, that was my reasoning, Jack, for my fullback.
I like your
debacle. So
thoughts. I do think left back is actually a position that, whilst we have Rose who's kind of played his way in there, he's not experienced, and it is a position that we've craved a player for a while. And I do think if Luke Shaw was fit, he'd kind of be, and he'd had a
without a
reasonable
doubt.
season this year. Suddenly, you look at the left back position, and it feels a lot more kind of assured, I guess.
Yeah. Again, there'll be a backup list, and it'll be Baines or Bertrand. And either way, I think you wouldn't be devastated with either of those two.
No.
So, it's not too bad. Go on, Kino, are you going to just quickly add a point to that?
I think from defence upwards from the midfield, I think the team virtually sort of picks itself in terms of our squad. Obviously, you can quibble on the starting 11. So, should we move on to the
we might do
midfield?
that at the end a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about
should we
that.
move on to the midfield? Because I would.
Yes.
I have, in central midfield, I have, as you just mentioned, I've got Fabian Delph in my team.
Oh, you do?
I've not.
Some might say surprisingly.
Oh,
from
yeah,
a kind of
I am
perspective.
surprised.
But I've got him in over James Milner.
I've dropped
Okay.
Milner, but not.
And let
for
me
not for
explain.
Delph.
So yeah, I've dropped Milner for Delph, and I'll explain my reasons why. Maybe you just made the case for Milner as a utility player, and I guess if we sort of get rid of Jagielka, I could maybe include Milner. But my reasoning for doing this was that Delph is a better central midfielder for me than Milner in that position. I feel he's a little bit more dynamic. He can probably get forward a little bit better, and we don't need Milner. We're probably not going to use him in the 3 behind the 1 if we're assuming that England are going to start in a sort of 4-2-3-1. So I don't think Milner would get in there, and I think Delph's probably a better pure central midfielder. Also, I think Henderson and Dyer are straight in there. They're probably two of the most certain players in the squad, particularly after Dyer's performance on Saturday. Obviously, we've got Dele Alli.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we'll go with the obvious ones first. And obviously, Raheem Sterling and Ross Barkley. Hodgson really likes Barkley. It seems
I've
he's
put them
played him
both
quite
there.
well.
Yeah.
And then maybe you two might disagree. I've got Lallana in there, despite the fact that he's maybe been on and off this year
I've
in
got
terms
Lallana
of form.
purely because of the fact I think there's a better alternative when it comes to a dynamic attack.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually a position that England have had some promise in some real natural wingers, but in recent years they've kind of, they've not quite lived up to the expectation. You talk about Walcott, Oxlade, Chamberlain. I think you look at it, you've got Dele Alli who's going to play off a striker. You've got Sterling, you've got Barkley, you can maybe plonk out wide, potentially Welbeck. I think
Ali can also play
Lallana's a
deeper
useful
in the
player to
midfield
have
as
there
well.
because he can just, you can basically say stand left, stand down the middle, stand down the right, play off the front man. He's like going to do a job for you there.
Also with Lallana, I think he performs a slightly different role to players like Barkley, Sterling, Welbeck. I mean, if you're playing Welbeck behind the striker, which he did against Germany, they're all very explosive, pacey players. Lallana, if we do need to slow a game down a bit, and I guess Wayne Rooney coming on as a sub, spoiler alert, would also do this. He allows you to sort of slow the game down a bit, keep possession. He can hold the ball up quite well and bring other players in at a slightly slower pace. So I think in terms of adapting our game if we need to, Lallana's a good pick for that.
So just to go over this, how many midfielders did you select, Kino?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because should I talk about my final?
Well, I'm going to go to Jack. Jack, how many did you get?
I've got 7, but I've got
So
one that
8.
we've not talked about yet.
I've gone 9, and I've got 9 midfielders.
Well, you're missing the defender, aren't you? From
Yeah,
mine,
I've got 6 defenders, 9 midfielders, 5 attackers.
Right, I'm about to take a big, deep breath and justify my pick in midfield because I think this could be a challenge. I'm not taking Milner because I don't think you need as resourceful a player as Milner is in a tournament could potentially be as short as the Euros are. I mean, it's a maximum of what, 7 games? I don't feel like you need a player who's going to be your 4th choice right back or your 3rd choice left back. Like, you can't go into games with that kind of contention. So in midfield, somewhat controversially, and this won't happen, but I kind of wish it would, I've gone with James Ward-Prowse as a centre mid option, because I don't think we need that extra man in Milner in this England side. I feel like a lot of the players kind of cover themselves quite nicely. And yes, Milner adds experience, but I've kind of gone with that same mentality of before, where it's a tournament that England are going into, not a load of expectation. You've got Ward-Prowse playing consistently for Southampton in the Premier League for the last 2 or 3 years, really. He's done very well in the under-21s. He's never been given a chance in the senior team. I almost wish he'd been given more of a chance this year. I think he's been a victim of the fact that players like Noble and Drinkwater have done so well that they've kind of been the players, fighting for potentially that last midfielder spot. But I think he deserves a chance, and I think in this kind of age of England's side, it makes infinitely more sense to take a player like Ward-Prowse this tournament than it does to take Milner, who, well, let's face it, probably isn't going to be in contention for the next World Cup.
Yeah, no, I don't... I guess it's not dissimilar logic to my Pickford inclusion, but I mean, shall I add the name in that neither of you have said that I've got?
Is it Drinkwater?
Drinkwater. So just to go through it, my midfield is Eric Dyer, James Milner, who I take, Henderson, Ali, Sterling, Delph, Lallana, Barkley, and Drinkwater, for lots of different reasons. Do you want me to go through a few of them? Because both of you have said no to Milner.
So I've said no to Milner. I've also said no to Drinkwater, but I have Mark Noble in the squad.
Oh,
okay.
I've got him in over Drinkwater because, I mean, one of the two for me on form should deserve to be in this squad. But the reason I've gone for Noble is more of a sort of personnel issue, because I think that he's a bit more talented going forward than Drinkwater is in terms of what he can offer in box-to-box play. I don't think Drinkwater does that as well. And also, I think that his style of play that he's playing for his club, West Ham, I think fits a little bit more closely to the style we need him to play in the international arena. Drinkwater plays a very direct style for Leicester, and I feel like England aren't going to play that way in the summer.
See,
not quite so much.
I kind of disagree with that logic, just because I think Noble, there's no chance that he would even start in the Euro, so he is going to be that impact sub, and generally when you're bringing on a midfield, you're looking for a midfielder who's going to try and ping some balls over and try and cut an opposition open with one pass and kind of provide that cutting edge, which is, I think, something that Drinkwater actually has in his game and has shown for Leicester this year.
I also take Milner over Noble based on the attributes you kind of picked out for Noble. Because I guess the point is, after Wayne Rooney, James Milner is England's most capped footballer. I know that's pretty mad, but that's true. I think we lose a lot of experience. I'm looking at the squad that we're sort of selecting here. You've got Cahill on 41. You've got, I mean, with debatable on Jagielka. Welbeck is one of the top 5 in terms of caps. You take Rooney and Hart, who obviously are handily capped, and then you're looking at Milner, 58 caps. I feel like we are. I'm all for youthful exuberance, and I think we'll probably talk about that in a few other areas. But I mean, we've already touched on quite a lot of it with players like Barkley and Ali and Sterling, and I guess we'll come on to Harry Kane a little bit later on. I just think having a player like Milner, it comes into a lot of things that if you are struggling in a game and you want to calm it down a bit and you want to bring someone just to maybe even spoil, if you go into the last 20 minutes against a France or a Spain or a Germany and you want to protect whoever that right back is and you say, who are we going to bring on? Yeah. I'm not sure where you find that player outside of James Milner, and he can do it on the left as well. I think his versatility is not something we should just brush over, because I don't think we have a great number of fantastic midfield players. So take someone that can sort of be a bit of a jack of all trades, or a James of all trades, if you like. Maybe we can go with that, James of all trades. So I would take Milner. I'd take Drinkwater as well. And obviously because I had less defenders, it kind of works out. I think I'll go through it like this then. Defensively minded players, I think you're looking at Eric Dyer. You're probably looking at Henderson to play a little bit deeper, and maybe Delph to kind of be that box-to-box role, but they can sit deeper if they have to, and Danny Drinkwater. Wingers, I think I've got a few sort of in the forwards as well, but Sterling, I think, would play in a diamond, or he could play either side. Lallana can arguably do the same thing, as can Ross Barkley, if absolutely necessary. And then you've got Milner, who can do a bit of all of that. He's not going to start, but I think he can do a bit of all of that. And if you're in a game which is tight, he might be the player you bring on to calm it down, especially if you're in the lead.
I don't disagree with your point about Milner and in caps. I do think a lot is made of experience in international sides. Like we did the feature earlier where Barkley had 20 caps. You look at the England players, yes, there aren't that many with, say, 40 plus caps, but the majority of them have been to the World Cup before or another international tournament. And I feel like with international sides, there's this big thing about, you need loads of players above, say, 60 caps to name an arbitrary number. You know, there seems to be this benchmark where, like, that is the point where you're now experienced international, where in reality, I think for me, an experienced international is someone who has been to a World Cup in Brazil. I don't think there is much more that you're going to do that's going to go beyond that to prepare you for this kind of tournament. This tournament is not going to feel the same as the World Cup before, and there isn't that expectation on us. And you look at that England squad that Roy announced, I mean, going through it off the top of my head, there aren't that many new names in that squad who weren't at the World Cup or who haven't, played in previous competitions. So
I think you're looking at Ali. You're looking at. I'll go through the ones that I think are on the list. Vardy won't have been. Harry Kane won't have been. I don't think. I'm not even sure Fraser Forster will be. I think Fraser Forster was injured. Yeah. John Stones. I don't think John Stones went. Danny Rose is another one.
There's a fair few new players to the lineup.
I think,
and that's what makes it
I
exciting.
agree with you, Jack. I think filling the team with. I like the fact actually none of us have said Michael Carrick, and I don't think Michael Carrick's a bad footballer. I just think we've seen everything we're ever going to see of Carrick. And you could make the argument for Milner, by the way, just to clarify. You could make that, but Carrick's certainly not as versatile as James Milner, and that's largely my point for his inclusion. But we're not we're past the Gerrard Lampard stage now, right? I feel like, yes, you shouldn't just put experience in there for the sake of it, but you do need some of it. It's been proven. You need a bit of it.
I do think actually another reason why we have this gap, say, between Milner and the players preceding him, is because there was this mentality for a number of years in the England squad, sticking with the same generation of players, and now we're kind of almost playing victims to that, whereby you look at the squad, you can see where that generational cut-off happened, and suddenly you have got an abundance of under-experienced players and inexperienced players who, this is going to be their first international tournament. But at the same time, I think of all the international tournaments over the last number of years, really, perhaps since France '98, this is the closest that England are going to come to a home tournament. It's not going to be drastically different. Yes, there is going to be a bit of a fanfare about it, but ultimately we're playing across the channel, like 1 hour across. It's not like we're going to South America playing in some random tropical climate. Like this England is as good.
Sorry, I like the description there. Random tropical.
They are also
you know the point I'm making.
Brazil.
Other tropical climates are available.
I know the exact point you're making, Jack. I just found your random tropical countries coming.
I'm trying to think
funny,
of a way to summarise Brazil's climate accurately. I don't think I've done a great job.
It's like when you do essays and you try to add in creative words. I feel like you've done that for Brazil. Describe Brazil. Why there?
Random tropical
climate.
A random tropical country in South America.
I do think that is something to consider. This is a tournament in France. Like France is where everyone who's English goes on holiday camping. Like we're used to it.
I like that as well. I like that.
In fairness, to take Jack's point seriously, I think you make a very good point. I think you're right. I think in terms of climate, it is very kind to England. But then again, while I agree with that, it's also pretty kind to every other team in the Euros. So. Yeah, I'm not sure if that gives us much of an advantage.
I guess I'm not necessarily saying it gives us an advantage. It's not so much that it isn't a disadvantage. I feel like the excuses start for England before every international tournament.
Yeah, people talk about how much water we're going to drink.
Yeah, I love it. Like when you're looking at England's camp plans for when they're in Brazil, it's like, they've got an hour on the plane to their first game, kind of thing.
Where's the closest co-op? Things like that. Exactly. Right, shall we move on to strikers? I think midfield-wise, we're all along the same lines. No one's gone for we're not dropping anyone. I think that our biggest talking point was James Milner, which I think that's the most Milner's ever been talked about in a podcast ever.
It's a really exciting sort of squad because I think we. And this was evident against Germany, like the most that I've ever seen England really in the last. Since I've been watching it, we've kind of combined and this is it, when we sort of go through those players, you see it's kind of combining the best things about what maybe like a foreigner would say the English game, like the pace and the power and speed, but then also bringing to that a lot of technical quality as well. I feel like they've since 2010 for a few years, and maybe we've kind of got over that in the last couple. There's been this kind of, and this was when Spain was doing well. There's been a fixation on the tiki-taka kind of play. I think actually England have moved a little bit further away from that, and that third goal that the second goal, sorry, that Vardy scored, again that equalised against Germany, almost was that kind of style of play in a microcosm. Like it was. I think we can talk about that a little bit before we move on to the strikers. It was my favourite goal probably of the season, actually, in the way that we sort of developed the move, attacked at pace but finished it with such quality. I think that sort of brought together all those elements, and this squad is really exciting because it does all that.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think it's been said in a few different places, but we need to develop an identity which isn't that far from what we see every week. And if we can develop a Premier League identity and take that into our national team, we do you know what? It probably won't win many tournaments because it's not as
well in the Champions League, is it?
Well, that's what I mean. It's not as systematic as, say, a German national team right now or a Spanish national team that know exactly who they are. Even the French national team, they know what they're going to do. They know how they're going to execute it, and they know where their strong points are. With England, I think we're at a point in our development that we're still trying to figure that out. We don't necessarily know where we are, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is a bad thing if we talk about this exactly the same way in 10 years. But as long as we see a development throughout sort of the next 10 years, I think this is arguably the start of what could be a very positive change for England's national team. Now, speaking of the goal, let's move to the strikers.
Can we just discuss beating Neuer 3 times? We're winning the Euros, boys. I'm saying no, we're not. I'm done.
Jimmy Vardy, it's unbelievable. Right then, 5 strikers I've got. Have you got 4 or 5?
5, and I think they pick themselves.
Okay, I start with. I mean,
we can say them all. At
you
the same
say that,
time,
Kino. No. We'll say them all at the same time. Harry Kane, agreed.
Yeah.
Jamie Vardy, all agreed.
Yeah.
Daniel Sturridge, all agreed.
Yeah.
If he's
so
fit.
Far.
Wayne Rooney,
no.
all agreed.
Yes.
Jack, are you saying no,
yes.
Jack?
Wow.
Okay, and finally Danny Welbeck.
Yes.
Okay, I know who Jack's put instead of Wayne Rooney then, Kino.
Right, now Ben predicted this. Let's see if it's
right. Before we start recording, Jack told us that he's going to put a shock player in there, and I thought you'd actually change him for Danny Welbeck. Turns out you've decided to drop Wayne Rooney, which we'll talk about in a moment. And I think, Jack, I mean, actually, no, you can say, and Callum can confirm if I was correct.
So this is going to be the most controversial thing, I think, about this entire show, but I do think there's method to my madness here. I'm dropping Wayne Rooney. Andy Carroll, get on the plane.
Yes!
Get on the plane,
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I'll take the points.
So this actually started as a joke suggestion in my mind a long time ago, where I suggested on Twitter that Walcott should be dropped for Andy Carroll. But I've been thinking about it for a while now. I don't feel like Wayne really adds anything bar experience, which, I mean, his experience is questionable, really, because he's not done anything with it at every other tournament he's gone to based on experience. And can I say something here? Hope he's injured for the Euros, because actually that would be a blessing for England. I'm sorry, Wayne.
I don't wish you be hurt.
Get a cold or tonsillitis or appendicitis. So it's not serious, but it does mean you won't get on the plane. Because
all right.
Wayne Rooney.
Lose your passport.
I just feel like we're going around in circles with Wayne Rooney. At the last World Cup, everyone's like, well, what does he do? And we're at the same situation now. And in these friendlies, without Wayne Rooney playing, I actually think that's the best I've seen England play in a very long time. And I was actually excited by it. You know, I look forward to seeing who Roy was going to pick up front, because I knew there wasn't one name that was going to be put on the list like every other game that we see. Yeah. And actually, I think we look at England's side, Vardy, Sturridge, Welbeck, 3 similar players, quite powerful players. You know, they're going to run very, very hard. They're going to, put in a shift. You've got Harry Kane who kind of fits into that mould. We need a plan B. We need a plan C. Wayne Rooney is not a plan C. Like, he's the.
That's what I'm telling you. I told you before. James Milner can play a number of positions, and that is why we have to.
We've missed an Andy Carroll since the days of Emil Heskey. I've been crying out for an Andy Carroll.
Can I just say that the comedy of this is that me and Kino have just spent the last 5 minutes going, we're developing an identity. We've got our plan. We know what we're going to do. Jack comes in and goes.
All I'm saying is, even the Roman army needed a battering ram. Andy Carroll is the battering ram. Can I have that on a mug? I like that. That's quite a good one.
Yeah, it's not dreadful. So we both agree. We all agree on Kane, don't we, Jack?
Yeah.
Right?
No,
Kane?
but he has to start. If he doesn't start, the world can't go into it's going to end.
Let's touch on that then. That I think we're gonna develop an 11 now. I think Rooney should go based on the fact that it's a bit like, I know this is sort of supposed to be my 23, but he's going to go. So
Appendicitis.
me not putting him in is just kind of, I mean, forget his passport. I think that's the easiest way. Hide it. Someone hide his
Can
passport.
we do
It's
that,
really,
Mike?
I don't know if you ever tried to. I don't know if you ever tried to like upgrade your passport or get it renewed. It's bloody difficult, Wayne. So if we could lose Baz's passport, I feel like we've got a chance. I just think you take him because, for a similar reason to that, you want his experience there. Now, this is the real crux of it, though. Are we starting a front two or a front one? Are we playing like, what's your ideal England formation?
I think it
We'll go through
depends on the
Jack.
opposition. Actually, I think Kane.
Okay, well we play Wales. What are you starting against Wales?
I'd say a 4-4-2. 4-4. No,
Okay, and
it depends on how Wales line up. I think my issue here is I don't think Wales are that great in the midfield behind, say, Ramsey.
Okay, I'm changing. Okay, I don't want to get into Wales. I'll change the question.
Me neither.
You
More
pick.
Dolphin
You
fan.
pick your best England team. Away you go.
Okay.
And then we'll go, Keenan, I'm
Hart
going
in
to come to you,
goal.
and then I'll do mine. Hart in goal.
Smalling and Cahill. No, Smalling and Stoneton centre back. Right
Okay.
back, Klein. Left back, Rose. Two holding midfielders, Eric Dyer and Jordan Henderson.
Yeah. Okay.
Out on the left, Raheem Sterling. Centre attacking
Okay.
mid, Dele Alli. Right wing, Lallana. Up top, Kane. Because I feel like with that team, actually, there's quite a lot of ability to adapt to different situations. And throughout, say, a first half where you might, hit a roadblock, there's lots of ways you can change around that team. You can, drop a few players back. You can move Dele Alli to play more like directly off Kane.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting lineup. I mean, it's interesting. Keenan, do you change anything to that?
I'm just trying to think. My team would be pretty much the one that started against Germany, just with Sterling in for Lallana, because I think that, firstly, I think Sterling's too good not to start for England. Secondly, and his form's been actually pretty decent in a poor Man City team. And secondly, because he makes us even more pacey and direct, which I think is probably our biggest strength and something that we should, promote as much as possible. So, Hart in goal, Cahill and Smalling. I like Stones, and I think I would give him quite a lot of minutes, but I wouldn't start him
I
the
just think
first game
Stones
against
actually
Russia.
is the better option at left centre back in the England squad. We don't have a left-footed centre back, and I think he's the most technically gifted footballer. So that's
James Milner can play a number of positions. Sorry.
centre back. I can see it now. I mean, with your team, if we only take 3 centre backs, it might be necessary.
11 James Milners.
Shall I carry on?
Go on,
Yes,
man.
please do.
Full back, Danny Rose, and then I can go right back.
Klein at right back.
Klein, yes, of course, Klein. Provider of the best assist of the season.
Okay.
Then Henderson and Dyer. Dyer's crucial. Henderson also crucial, but I mean, we can move
A lot
him
of people,
around
I
a
should
bit
say, people listening, a lot of people won't agree with Jordan Henderson's inclusion, which we could maybe touch upon, but I think there'll be plenty of people in the comment section. I mean, if you watch this on my channel, this is going up on my channel. It's been good enough, I've decided, as well as for the fans. But if you let us know your England teams. But I think a lot of people will talk about. The reason I bring this up is because a lot of people will disagree with Jordan Henderson's inclusion because I don't think he's had a
I
good enough
just think
season.
for Henderson, he's put in like 2 or 3 really solid years as a developing player with a little bit of pressure on his shoulders in the England squad. He's had a season ravaged by injuries, coming to a subpar Liverpool side that's still trying to find an identity. And I just think it's very harsh for a player who's been injured for so long. He has done very well for England when you consider the players who he was expected to kind of make up for, with them playing the likes of Lampard and Gerrard. And I just think, yes, he might not be as good as perhaps people want him to be for an England player, but I do think his versatility, his ability to play box to box, and actually his experience for a player of his age is absolutely invaluable in this England squad right now, particularly with the likes of Dele Alli and Eric Dyer coming into the side, who are young centre mids who perhaps do need a relatable player to be playing alongside them and someone who they can trust as a partner in their side.
Yeah. So Keno, Hart, Klein, Rose, Cahill, Smalling, Dyer, Henderson,
Sterling, Barkley. Hold on. Sterling, Lallana, Dele Alli, Kane.
So you're not Barkley.
No, not Barkley.
Is that my team?
It's very
That's
similar to your
literally my
team.
He's
Yeah.
copied me, folks.
Apart from the centre
Yeah,
back
that's true.
switch.
Yeah.
I have a different team to both of you. So
Are you playing
here we go.
3-5-2 with your three centre backs?
I start with a
Jordan
diamond
Pickford in
and then
goal?
Jordan Pickford in goal. James Milner at left back and right back. No, I play so Joe Hart in goal, Klein at right back. I play Cahill and Stones at the back. I don't dislike Chris Smalling. I just think Stones is a different defender to Chris Smalling, and arguably not that dissimilar. Like in terms of what they've actually achieved in an England shirt, it's not that different. I don't think there's a massive gulf in either of those two. We then put Danny Rose at left back, which is a bit standard. Then
Can we
Eric
just
Dyer
discuss
sitting in front
the
of
fact that Danny Rose is a standard at left back? If you told me that at the start of the year, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah,
It's a very weird.
I know. It is strange. Danny Rose at left back then. We've got Eric Dyer sat just in front. Henderson and Ali either side of him. Henderson will drop a little bit deeper, you'd assume. Ali push on a little bit further forward. Sterling in front of them. I just think you can allow him to do whatever he wants. And I start with Kane and Vardy up front. I think Vardy can kind of run one channel. It could become a 4-3-3 very quickly on a breakaway. You send Vardy out on the left where he loves to pull away. Sterling can push forward on the right. You've got Kane through the middle. Then Ali drifting into that space. And then if you want to change it, I mean, we've got options to do that as well. If you want to bring Lallana on to change the game, Barkley, Sturridge, Welbeck, Wayne Rooney. I mean, none of us are starting Rooney. I think apart from Jack, we take him. We just don't start him right now.
I think my issue with just taking Wayne Rooney is I don't actually think he's much of an impact player coming on off the bench.
But you can't. But I guess the point is you can't make Rooney captain, and in the first international tournament that he can be the captain.
The thing is,
you don't then take him.
debate to say that he shouldn't be captain. I don't know who you'd take as place.
Who should be captain? Yeah,
because of the lack of experience.
James Milner again. Milner's a great option.
I just think it's. I don't hate Rooney. I don't hate Rooney. I just think any other player in his kind of form who's been performing as he has this year wouldn't even have a sniff at the England kind of. I think it's basically we're playing off 8 years ago Wayne Rooney at this point and what he was. He's like Michael Owen without the injuries. If he'd had the injuries that Owen had, in his late 20s, he wouldn't even be in contention for England.
I've been guilty of this. It's very easy to forget when he was influence within the England team. He's the record goal. Like you can argue about the importance of the goals.
He scores
he's
7
the record
against
goal
San
scorer.
Marino. I could score 2 against them.
But he's the record goal scorer for England. He's our most. He's got the most experience within the England side. On captaincy,
Vardy has the best goals to game ratio. Get him on the plane.
And that's why I start him, Jack. And with Sturridge and Welbeck,
Nugent on 1 goal, 1 appearance. Right, we're sorted now.
I want to talk to you about Sturridge and Welbeck, and I want to thank you for not including Ings or Austin. Do we think if they'd have had better seasons? I guess it kind of depends, doesn't it? But they play a very similar role, perhaps on either side of an attacking formation, but we don't start either of them.
Who's that? Welbeck and Sturridge.
Sturridge, yeah, but just because of their injuries this year, I think it's hard to start either of them.
I think if one's going to start, it's going to be Sturridge alongside Kane. As much as it would be annoying if Vardy didn't start, that would be a very Roy Hodgson decision. Yeah. I feel like to play Sturridge.
Yeah. The funny thing is going to be when it's a 4-4-2 and it's Kane and Rooney.
If it is, honestly, I will. If Rooney starts a game of the Euros, I won't watch the game.
Okay, well, that's a shame.
Saying that now.
Right, I'm going to level with the listeners. Keno's gone to move his car. So while he's away, Jack, who do you think our best player is? We're going to sort of close on this, and we'll come to Keno as well. Who do you think England's best player is at this point?
Can I give one in every position, like a best defender, best midfielder, best attacker?
We'll leave keeper, but yeah, go on, defender. If you're going to do that,
I was going to say Jordan
Pickford,
but I think if defensively, I actually think Smalling. I think he's impressed me a lot this year. I think he deserves. Yeah. I think he deserves to start. I mean, that's perhaps a testament to where this England squad's at. I do think he's an exciting player. I think he's been inconsistent for United, but then he's been part of a Man United system, which I guess is fundamentally flawed in a lot of ways. And I think his inconsistency isn't so much him as on an individual level, so much as it is the players around him. In midfield, I feel silly saying this. Dele Alli. I honestly think Dele Alli's had one of the most outstanding seasons of any footballer I can remember. To go from playing League One football last year to looking like a player who looks like one of the most composed midfielders in the league could potentially lead Spurs to win the Premier League. I know Leicester, as we record this, are up there. I don't think his influence can be underestimated. When you consider the additions that Spurs made, they didn't go out and spend money like they have done on Lallana, on Kane, on Eriksen. They bought in Son, who's been injured for a lot of this year, and they brought in Dele Alli. And Dele Alli has been a catalyst in that side, playing off Kane. And I think he's worked his way into the England squad. He scored one of the best goals in the Premier League this year. I don't want to big up another young English player who's perhaps I'm destining to fail by bigging him up like this. But I honestly think he's one of the most exciting players in an England shirt for a number of years, and he doesn't look out of his depth. I think he's not a dissimilar age to the age that Walcott was at when he went to a World Cup. I think he's only 2 years older, but you've got to consider Walcott was at a Premier League club from a very young age, moving from Southampton.
3 years, but it's neither here or there. Dele Alli will be 20 when he goes, actually.
And then attacker,
striker,
Kane again. I feel like I feel harsh leaving out Vardy, but I think Vardy is a byproduct of the Leicester system. Whereas I think, much like Dele Alli, actually, Spurs lean on Kane so much. There's so much pressure in him, week in and week out, to perform for Spurs in a side that really lacks a striker. I mean, they've lacked a striker for a number of years. If Kane hadn't come in and kind of made the impact he has over the last 2 years, they wouldn't be the team they are now. They'd still have Soldado up front.
Yeah, so I would probably say Sterling is our most talented midfielder, just ahead.
I think he's the most talented, but I don't know if he's the best right now. I know Sterling's injured at the moment, and my issue with Sterling is, partially I'm a Liverpool fan, so I'm going to be biased and say I don't like him, but also the fact that I think you look at the City side that he's part of, it's not performed this year. And maybe he's not to blame for that.
I don't necessarily think he's
to blame for that, but I think you look at how Dele Alli's had perhaps an impact for Spurs in kind of bringing them forward. Raheem Sterling going in for the money he has, despite the stars that undoubtedly surround him at City, he is a player who you look at to be a catalyst in matches, to win you 3 points, and he hasn't done that this year.
Yeah, and I don't agree with you. I think it's between. I'd probably say Klein, actually. I'd probably say Klein's our best defender. Has Callum Keane just returned there?
No, he hasn't.
Will he ever be back, listeners? I guess that's the question mark.
What he said here is he's actually gone. I know what he's gone to steal Rooney's passport. He's gone early. I mean, he probably can get it replaced in the next few months.
Yeah, now's as good a time as any.
Either that or he's gone to, I don't know. What injuries did I say Rooney could get? Tonsillitis or appendicitis?
Right. Well, as he's not here, because he's decided to disappear. I mean, professionalism is very core here. I want to talk about a couple of the exclusions, and deal with a couple of those, Jack. I don't know if Keane will be back or not. We've got no idea at this point. Now, we've got Walcott's not going. I mean,
if he goes, I will be outraged. The issue is actually, I think Walcott or Rooney goes, but I'm sorry, Theo. I feel like everyone still thinks of Theo Walcott as being this young child going to the World Cup for the first time. Is he 28 now? He's old. He's had a lot of injuries and he's been unfortunate. He's getting on, yeah. But at the same time, I don't think I've seen anything from him this year that can justify him playing for England. Never mind starting. Was it against Chelsea? There was one game where he was absolutely awful out on the right-hand side and playing up top. He was kind of playing as a right. In fact, he might have even been playing striker. I think it was Arsenal v Chelsea. I might be wrong there. I just remember the game because loads of Arsenal fans were going mental on social media about how bad he was.
Yeah, I think that's the only exclusion. I think a few West Ham fans might wonder why
Baines,
Noble
perhaps.
And maybe Baines, perhaps, and Cresswell. I think a few people will probably talk about him as well. He's been playing well. There's a few that I think are still there that could maybe be selected. Players like John Joe Shelby. It's basically players that have seen a bit of action within the England team, but then we're unlikely to see them again. A player that's I think you'd have been nailed on a few years ago is Oxlade-Chamberlain. We've not even mentioned his name in regards to this squad. And aside from that, I don't think there's that much else there that we're taking.
This is one of the few tournaments where the England squad kind of picks itself in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And in a way that's nice, but I guess at the same time you want to be surprised. I mean,
compared to the French squad, I was looking at the French, they're 23.
Yeah,
right? How would you pick that?
The French squad's good.
I guess it's a blessing in some ways that Benzema's embroiled in controversy and might not go because of that, because that makes the decision of picking the strikers that little bit easier.
Yeah. So I think our England team, Kino's gone. We'll see him again next week. We'll wrap it up there. Then I think the England squad, and keepers wise, we're agreed with Hart, Forster, and I think I won you over with Pickford.
Yes, but I think much like your Rooney thing, I just don't. It's not going to happen because Roy.
Okay, no, I agree, sadly. Klein, we agree. Walker, we agree. Rose, we agree. Cahill, Smalling and Stones, we agree. Would you add another one to that?
I
or?
think Bertrand, maybe. Joe Gomez, if he's fit. But
okay. Do you think if one of those two go, well, it won't be Gomez. if Bertrand goes, do you think Drinkwater probably misses out, or do you think Milner misses out? I mean, we're kind of talking about what we think Roy will do here, rather than.
Drinkwater's going to be unfortunate. The player loses out, and Rooney gets his spot back.
And then the midfield will be Dyer, Milner, Henderson, Ali, Sterling. I think Delph will come back in because I think Roy likes him. Barkley and Lallana, no Drinkwater. And then the front five: Welbeck, Sturridge, Vardy, Kane, Carroll. I think we all know it's going to be Rooney.
I don't know how to feel about Rooney. I'm sure there's going to be people who disagree and people who agree with me. I think he's actually one of the most polarising subjects in this side, alongside James Milner, of course. Yeah.
Well, I guess, look, nearer the time, I'm sure we'll talk about this again. When the squad's being picked, I'm sure we'll be talking about it.
Okay, the last two England games are the most excited I've ever been to watch England play in perhaps the last 4 or so years. And I think part of that was actually the fact that I wasn't looking at the old generation of players and, the commentators, the only players they're talking about is Wayne Rooney on the pitch. And we played nice football. We've not talked much about the matches. I mean, the Germany game, the Germans were poor. We got lucky with the offside goal that wasn't. But ultimately, I don't know. I just feel like that was the most exciting I've seen England play. There was a real dynamicness. Is that a word? There was a dynamicness around the squad. I've invented it.
Okay.
But I just feel like with Rooney, you've basically got an old man and 10 other players around him.
Dynamicness. That's the word of today's show.
That's the opposite of Rooney.
I think that almost wraps us up. As I said, Keno's, I don't know. We don't know. He said he had to move the car. We don't know what's happened. We'll find out next time. That'll be a story to open the show. I should note that for those that have listened to this on my YouTube channel, we do have a link in the description to our Twitter and the YouTube account. We upload every single week on the shows. We do like Premier League roundups, a little bit of world stuff. If there's interesting stuff going on elsewhere, we chat about that as well as it being on iTunes. So you can find For the Fans Show.
Leave a review.
Even
if this is the first one you've watched, you've randomly skip to the end. You might not have even watched the bit in the middle. Go on iTunes, leave a good review, and read the other reviews. Great talk about pedlos and such,
Also, do leave what you think. What would be your squad? I mean, I'm intrigued to see what you think as well. If you want to leave opinions on what we've said, I'm sure you'll do that. You don't need encouraging. That almost brings us to the end. Jack, have you anything more you'd like to add?
Bring on the battering ram.
Bring on the battering ram. From me, Dr. Benji, from Work the Space. We'll see you again next week. And Keno, but he's not here, so I mean, forget him. It's just like the old days, we're back. Right, with love, with care. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.